Welcome, everybody. I'm really glad to be here. We are going to talk about our MAP agenda today. So this is an insight. This is something we've developed over 14 years of consulting. Now, I've got Jeff Russell, our consultant in training, with me here on the podcast. Jeff, you want to chime in, say hi? Welcome, everybody.
Yay.
Yeah, that's big. Okay, so what I found is that a common theme that people struggle with that come to us for coaching is time management. And also, a component of that is that meetings run over. As a matter of fact, coaching somebody this morning, he said, yeah, our team meetings are really good, but how do you really contain it within that hour? And so what we have developed is what we call our MAP agenda. We use MAP as an acronym because everything you're doing, whether it's a task, whether it's a goal, a target, whatever we call it, is going from a point A to a point B. It's a destination target, okay? So whenever you're going from point A to point B, you need a map to get there. In your car, you want to go to a destination, you're going to use a GPS, right? It's going to tell you the steps to get there, the turns to make, the roads to be on. I think I read, I don't have it at my fingertips, but Jeff, you may recall, or maybe not, that if you're sailing from New York to London and you're off by 1 degree in your map, quote unquote, your plan, okay, you're going to be like 600 miles off course. All right. So the map is meant to keep the meeting on schedule and focused. And, does that make sense to you, Jeff? Am I good so far?
Yeah, makes sense to me.
Okay. So what we're talking about is a map to get you from point A to point B. It can be a meeting, can be a goal, can be a target, whatever. In this context, I want to talk about it for meetings. Now, this can be your sanctuary time, that one time a week when you sit down for 15 minutes to 2 hours and you really assess, hey, am I getting the important things done? Do I need to make any changes? It also can be for that daily check-in that you do by yourself. But it's also fabulous for group meetings. And by the way, this works professionally and personally. So MAP stands for, the M is metrics. That's how we start the meeting. It's self-accountability or group accountability. Hey, did we get things done that we committed to get done in our last meeting that are supposed to be done by this meeting? Okay, that might be our weekly win. What's important now that we set for ourselves each week? And I want to talk about that in a moment. It might be achieving certain metrics. Okay, if I've got technical people and they're supposed to be billable 30 hours a week, were they billable 30 hours a week? Is everybody supposed to enter their time as they work? Is that happening? So we may have certain metrics. M is for metrics. Where are the metrics for accountability where we need to hold ourselves accountable? Are we on track? Now, usually that might be 5 minutes to 15 minutes, okay? Then we're going to move into the A. The A stands for adjustments. Okay, what do we need to adjust to stay focused on what's most important? It's open discussion. It's maybe more detailed discussion of project status, client status. It might be, hey, we got this new information on new technology we're going to use. It might be a new policy or procedure with your company. It might be an idea. I really want to talk about this idea. So in the adjustments phase, that's the bulk of the meeting. And when you're going through that, if you're going to write an agenda, you have the M metrics, you list the key things you want to review. The A adjustments, you might just say, review projects. You might say something, just a bullet item of a new idea that wants to be discussed or a new policy, whatever. You don't have to put a lot of detail in the agenda. You may put that somebody else is going to lead that item, the conversation on that item. As you're going through the metrics and the adjustments, you're making notes of, okay, this has to be done, that has to be done, and by when. And you're basically defining the last part of the meeting. The P stands for plan. So you're going through your metrics. Okay, are we on track? What needs to be done? Boom, there's maybe a few to-do items that need to be scheduled in your calendar, taken on, people commit to. Adjustments phase is you discussing same thing. And you leave about 5 to 10 minutes at the end for the plan. The plan is, okay, here's what we committed to. So although you discussed it in the metrics and the adjustments phase, okay, you want to come back and you want to make certain everybody's on the same page. Everybody heard the same thing. Everybody had the same deadline, same day, same time. It's supposed to be done. Everybody owns their piece. knows where you're going. What do you think so far, Jeff?
It sounds good. It sounds like there's a lot of active listening that needs to be practiced in these meetings, where you're repeating back what other people are saying, you're confirming the the changes you want to make, and then at the end wrapping it up with having a concrete plan and just saying, okay, this is what we're all going to agree to.
That's really a good point. And so there is a lot of listening, there is a lot of interaction. You want to be thinking, but you also want to stay within the time frame. And I think the other thing that comes up from what you're bringing up is that as much as possible, try to assign the responsibility for certain topics to other people. Because if one person's driving the whole thing, other people are not necessarily as engaged. So transfer those responsibilities. Have other people be responsible for talking about things.
So does that mean that someone should be in charge of the M, someone in charge of the A, someone in charge of the P, 3 different stages, or should those all be broken down into whatever seems applicable to each meeting?
I would prefer to just say that you got to look at your team, your group, and your company culture and decide what's best. That's one way to do it. The other way to do it is within each of the metrics, the M, and then the adjustments, the A, you'll have different people talking, and then maybe one person's going to drive confirming the commitments at the end. So, and that may be your meeting leader, okay? They're going to basically drive when we have the meeting, they're going to control the agenda, and I don't mean control, they're going to say no to people, okay? As more, they're going to help organize it, make certain it happens. It should be part of the meeting invite, so people are aware of it. People should be encouraged to contribute. Hey, I really need to discuss this with the team when we meet. Get it on the agenda, make certain it's there. It may bump something else off the agenda because that's more important. So people need good communication about it.
And do you think every meeting needs an agenda? Is this just something for team meetings or in your sanctuary time, or are there some other types of meetings that maybe you don't want to have an agenda for? Like maybe there's a creative meeting that's something designed to facilitate some sort of new expression that's not within I don't know, something you can't put into a structure.
Yeah, I think that's really a good question. And I'm laughing because the Harvard Business Review, I'm on their mailing list. I subscribe there, and the tip for today that they sent out was important meetings don't need an agenda. And I don't. So my answer to that is that broad of a statement is too broad. Okay, it doesn't make any sense.
Sounds like clickbait.
Yeah, clickbait. I like it. Clickbait. It doesn't make any sense. Okay. It's so. I think in those meetings where you really don't need a structured agenda, you still need a map. You still want to go from point A to point B, right? Isn't that right?
Yeah, I mean, at those, I was thinking about like a brainstorming meeting. So I assume, maybe there's not a lot of metrics you would talk about at the beginning of a meeting, but maybe you would talk about where you are. Yeah, that's what the metrics are, is like, where are we right now? And where do we want to go? So if we want to brainstorm a new idea for a product or a service, or maybe some marketing messaging, then we would say, have an agenda for the meeting that says, okay, this is where we are now. And during that adjustments phase, that's when our creative time is going to be. And then at the end, we're going to wrap it up with a confirmation of, how did we do? Did we get to somewhere that makes sense?
Exactly. So I think on those meetings where you say we really don't need an agenda, you do need an agenda. You need a map. So the M metrics phase, we're going to spend 5 minutes. We're going to let you know where we are or remind you of the purpose for the meeting. Maybe it's 2 minutes. Okay. We're going to open there. And then the adjustments phase, you don't have to list a certain thing, but you say, here's when we're going to start the adjustments phase, and here's when we're going to start the planning phase. Okay. And you don't have to list anything, but we're going to go from accountability or a status check, which is a metric. Okay. Then we're going to go into the adjustments, open discussion, talk about anything we want. That's great. Now, and then we're going to hit that plan part at the end. So we're going to confirm, okay, we just had this idea session, or we had this important meeting on whatever. Who's doing what out of this meeting, or when are we meeting next? And that's the plan piece. Now let me mention one other thing. When we're going into this open area of the adjustments, okay, you guys can go down a rabbit trail. You may remember, Jeff, we were on a coaching call recently with a client, and he was talking about, one of the reasons that we have problems keeping our meetings to an hour is somebody starts talking about something that's kind of off topic or off agenda, and we start driving down that rabbit trail. And all of a sudden, we never close our meetings on time. So part of the MAP agenda process is we recommend that you maintain 3 lists. As leaders, as individuals, personally, professionally, you have 3 lists. The first one is the win list. And by the way, give credit. The person that gave me the acronym WIN is Joe Cram of Solid Networks in Modesto, great company, IT organization out there. And it stands for what's important now. Now, what I've taken that acronym and built off of it is your win each week is 1, 2, or a maximum of 3 things you will absolutely get done every week. You might do it every day, okay? But it's a limited list of must-do items. And when you're not getting that list done, that's a warning, I'm not managing my time well. I'm putting too many things on the list, or I'm not managing my time well. So you have to make adjustments. So the first list is the heavy priorities. These lead to achieving your annual targets, your goals, okay? The significant things, these are contributors. The second list is a prioritized to-do list. All right. And so I'm going to kind of be managing that priority of, okay, once I finish my win, I'm going to jump on my prioritized to-do list. I'm going to be working there and going from there. And the third list is a parking lot or a fridge, a refrigerator that the Australians like to prefer to say, I'm going to put it in the fridge, then I can put this task over there, pull it out later. It's still going to be fresh because it was in the fridge. Parking lot, same type of thing. I'm going to park the idea. I'm going to start it up again when I'm ready to drive with it. So the parking lot is the idea list, and that might be huge. I mean, I have a parking lot that's OneNote, and I have different sections for all kinds of ideas. I get an idea, just throw it in the parking lot. Maybe fun someday, maybe important someday, but today it doesn't apply to what I'm working on. So you got to be good at managing those lists too. And as we were working with the client today, he was developing the skill of saying, oh, excuse me, but that's off topic. Why don't we schedule a separate meeting to talk about that? Or maybe that needs to go into the parking lot. Maybe that needs to go to the prioritized to-do list, whatever. But he was keeping his meeting focused in an empathetic, respectful way by staying with the agenda that they had and then taking the items that were off agenda that were going too long and shifting those to another time or another list for the future.
Yeah, that sounds like that's another podcast episode where we can talk about the weekly win and also mastering meetings, which is a course in Dave's Charm School. But it sounds like along with this agenda for mapping your meetings, there needs to be some meetings management skills that make sure it's on topic and ends on time. Do you think it's important to have as part of maybe your agenda that the meeting ends at a specific time every meeting? It's a set, whether it's an hour or half an hour, or do you think there's open-ended meetings that can last 3 or 4 hours or more?
Well, I mean, it depends what the meeting purpose is, but once again, if you're saying it's an open-ended meeting for 3 or 4 hours, there is an understanding or an agreement of how long the meeting is going to be. So when I send out a meeting invitation, like if it's a coaching client, I'm sending a 45 or 50-minute meeting, sometimes a 25 or 30-minute meeting that is going to ideally give me 5 or 10 minutes, maximum 15 minutes before my next meeting, so I can regroup, get some water, whatever I need to do. But the end time is always understood. So what we recommend in the MAP agenda, when we talk about an agenda for the meeting, is you list the start time of the meeting, which is when you start talking about metrics, the M, a start time for the adjustments, and a start time for the planning, because the end of the meeting time should already be understood and doesn't need to be on the agenda. If you want to put it on the agenda, I don't have a problem with that. But it should already be understood. And we recommend, and we're talking about mastering meetings, our course, we recommend that you always schedule the end of a meeting with some padding. You don't go from 8 to 9 a.m. at 9 a.m. and then you got another meeting at 9 a.m. and you have no transition time. You can't change offices. You can't close out a GoToMeeting or a Zoom and jump on the next one. You can't catch your breath. You can't do whatever. So we recommend you always schedule your meetings to end with 5 to 15 minutes of free time. It's important.
Sounds good.
Yeah. Anything else on the map? So we're talking about time management, so we don't want to waste people's time here. Anything else, Jeff, I left out? I'm trying to think. I do want to mention one other thing. I want to emphasize this map agenda works not just with teams. When you sit down to hold yourself accountable once a week or once a day, which you should do, okay, it's very simple. It's how did I do the metrics portion? How did I do on what I had planned I was going to get done by now? Did I get it done? Adjustments phase. Okay, what do I need to adjust to catch up on what I should have gotten done? Or if I was caught up, what new information is there? Employee issues, client issues, new process, whatever. What do I need to consider? And let me confirm my plan for this next day or this next week. And I go from the metrics to the adjustments to the plan. It can take a couple minutes. It can take 2 hours. Lee Iacocca is where the idea came from originally for me, decades ago, literally. He wrote a book, Iacocca, about how he turned around Chrysler. Every Sunday evening, he went into his study by himself, separated himself from his family for 2 hours. And he looked at, okay, what did I have planned last week to keep Chrysler afloat? How did I do? Okay, what changes do I need to make? What do I need to do this next week to keep us afloat? And that's how he turned it around. That's where I got the idea. And over the last 14, 16 years, I then brought it up to this map agenda, and our clients, every single client that has implemented a map agenda process individually and team-wise has seen improvement. Every single one that's followed it.
Cool. Well, I think we can probably wrap this one up.
All right, that's great. So everybody, I encourage you. We do have a document, the map agenda guide. I'm sure Jeff will make that available on the site where this podcast is, or on our site with the blog post, whatever. You'll be able to find it. Jeff, let me re-record that. Where are they going to find it? So I should just.
The first thing you said was perfect.
With the podcast?
Yeah.
Okay, so let me just do that. That's great. Well, I want to encourage all of you, please try the map agenda process. We've described it here. Jeff will post with this podcast the guide that you can download. That'll give you the tips. You can ask us any questions if you want. Try it personally, individually, to hold yourself accountable. Am I really driving my career and being personally fulfilled the way I want to each day or each week? And then use it with teams. It's an incredibly simple agenda. Okay, a little self-accountability. Did we do what we say we're going to do? And then the adjustments. What do we need to do? And then, okay, what's the plan? Are we all on the same page? I encourage you to go for it. I thank you for visiting, joining us. I thanks Jeff for the commentary, input, and let us know how it goes. Thanks.